If you've ever started a calorie deficit and then quit after 2 weeks because you didn't lose any weight or you got overwhelmed by tracking macros, then this is the video for you. I've coached thousands of people to lose body fat and keep it off, and in this video I'm going to share the biggest cheat codes that I use with clients to drop anywhere from 10 to 50 kgs. That way you can just copy it and avoid the common mistakes. Number 1, supplements you might actually want. We're starting here because it's everyone's favorite topic, and to be 100% honest, there's actually a few supplements I would recommend taking straight off the bat if you want to lose fat faster. The first one is caffeine. Caffeine or coffee can help suppress your appetite, which can help control hunger, and it can make it easier to stay in a calorie deficit. A lot of our clients, and myself included, will use this in the form of coffee first thing in the morning to help offset hunger, appetite, and delay our brekkie so you're not starving upon waking. For example, I currently wake up about 5:30 a.m, but I don't eat my first meal until around 9:30 a.m. And I do, however, have coffee in between that time, which helps keep me going, but without it, I find I'm starving around 7 a.m. Just don't go overboard with caffeine and try to keep it in the first half of your day if you can, otherwise it can wreck your sleep. The next one is whey protein powder. Any brand is completely fine. I have zero affiliation with brands, so just don't worry about the name on here, but whey protein powder. This is more of a food than a supplement in my opinion, but it's insanely handy in a calorie deficit to help reach a protein target. It's cost effective, most of them taste pretty good, and it has a great calorie to protein ratio, meaning you get a lot of protein for not a lot of calories. This is also super handy to make your meals higher in protein. I've got it in a protein coffee, so I'm kind of combining the first two there. You can also chuck it in oats, smoothies, make overnight wheat bix, things like that. It'll help increase the protein of those simple meals. And the last supplement I'd recommend taking straight away is creatine. Again, any brand is fine. Creatine monohydrate. Pro tip for creatine monohydrate, it should be fairly cheap and cost effective. If it's for some reason triple the price and has some crazy claim on it, I would avoid that. You only need to take about 5 grams a day. Like I said, it's very cheap. It's heavily backed by science, and especially if you're training hard, this is gonna help. Now, creatine won't directly help you lose fat faster, but it will help with muscle gain and muscle retention, which will help you get the look you want as the body fat starts to come off. And by the way, if you're not already doing some kind of strength training, then I would highly recommend it. It helps you build and maintain muscle whilst you're losing the fat, which is actually how we change how the body looks, and it doesn't just make the number on the scale go down. And here I know that time is a massive factor, but even just 2 to 3 sessions a week can make a massive difference in how you look and feel. Number 2, you don't need the perfect macros. So many people get caught up in having the perfect macro percentages, exactly how many fats, carbs, protein they should be eating, or making sure that they're in a perfect 500 calorie deficit. And half the time, this stops them from even getting started in the first place. When in reality, the 2 main things to focus on are your calories and protein. And if you have no idea how to figure this out, I'll pop my free calorie calculator in the description for you. If you don't want to use that, just Google TDEE calculator and that will give you a rough guide. Start with those macros and just get as close to them as you can, focusing mainly on calories and protein. If your carbs and fats are going up and down, that's totally fine. So start by aiming for those calories, protein, and then track everything as accurately as you can for 1 to 2 weeks, and if needed, you can adjust from there. But 95% of the time, if you've selected the correct activity level, you've put your weight and height in accurately, you'll start losing body fat. And that brings me to number 3, track accurately. Now, this goes for your nutrition as well, which we'll touch on in a second, but more importantly, your physical progress. I just had a guy in our coaching program just last week getting super frustrated that he was only 300 grams down, which to be honest is still great progress. But my first question was, is that a one-off weigh-in or is that your weekly average weight? He replied with, yeah, that was today's weigh-in. So of course I said, go and check the weekly average, and boom, what do you know? He was 1.2 kilos down on average this week. And the craziest thing is he was actually frustrated, and I could tell by the message he seemed pretty disheartened, and that weigh-in that morning was going to ruin his day. And this is not just him, this is super common. I see it happen all the time. I cannot stress this one enough. Only use the weekly average weight to track your scale weight progress. This means weighing yourself at least 3 to 4 times per week and taking the average, but ideally every single day if you can. The more weigh-ins you have, the more accurate it's going to be. Now, we know that the scale only tells one part of the story, which is why I also think it's very important to take progress pics weekly if you can, but every 2 to 4 weeks is totally fine. You can use a free app and just put them side by side. I would probably do that weekly or at least fortnightly, at minimum monthly. That way you're gonna see the physical differences side by side, and this is super helpful for motivation and keeping you accountable too. The reason this is so powerful is because you see yourself every single day, so you're not actually gonna notice the small, tiny, incremental daily changes of your body fat coming off, and even weekly. So therefore, putting them side by side every 2 to 4 weeks, you will physically see where you started and where you are now, and that will be good drive to continue going. The other progress to track is your training. Now, if you can increase strength or at least maintain it whilst you're losing weight and body fat, this is the golden spot to be in. Now, when it comes to tracking your nutrition, you do need to be accurate with your calories and your protein, because without knowing these numbers, it's kind of like trying to buy a house without knowing how much you get paid, and you're also not allowed to look at your bank account. It's doable, but it's going to be 10 times harder. The most common mistakes I see here are what I call sneaky calories. Now, these are things like cooking oils, extra coffees or milk in your coffee that you're not tracking, or maybe even sugars, sugar syrups, sauces on the foods that you don't track, and maybe just stuff like snacking on your kids' foods or extra lunchbox snacks, etc. Because, for example, a tablespoon of this is 120 calories, and whenever you just dab it in the pan, you probably use more than that. Full cream coffee is probably going to be close to 200, even if it's a skim coffee, 100 calories, and if you're not tracking it, that's already, let's say, 220. This tastes absolutely bomb, 100 calories per serve though, and that's tiny, so let's just say 300 calories, and this is a bit over 100 calories. So even if you just did the smallest amounts of that without tracking, it's like 400, 450 calories gone that you're not tracking and you don't know about. That's enough to push you out of your deficit back to maintenance calories, and then you think a calorie deficit doesn't work, or there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. There's not, but sneaky calories like this is the most common reason I see people not losing body fat despite tracking their calories or following a plan. You can track these calories every single day with free apps or paid apps, MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, Macro Factor. Again, no affiliation with any of them, but there's a bunch out there. To be honest, I haven't used one in a while, so I'm not really sure which ones are the best. I just use my own, but that leads me to my next point. If you're super busy and you just got a lot of shit to do, this can get quite tedious and it's pretty easy to forget, and that's how these things come into play pretty quickly. So my experience of what works better for most people and our clients, we find, is having a meal plan or at least some weekly structure and routine. It's an absolute game changer, and it brings me to number 4. Simple is always best. Think of a meal plan like tracing paper when you're in primary school. If the teacher says, draw me a dinosaur, and just hands you a blank piece of paper, you'll probably end up looking like a Spud Light potato with legs. But if they give you tracing paper over a picture of a dinosaur, then suddenly you have something that actually resembles the real thing. This is the same with a meal plan. It's guidance, it gives you structure, it's a proven shape you can follow until you've got enough practice to draw it on your own. It's the fastest way to ensure you are hitting your calories and the protein target that you need. Plus, it helps save tons of time with grocery shopping, meal prepping, cleaning, and in my opinion, the added benefits of taking away food focus are a massive, massive bonus. Number 5, slow and steady is always best, right? You often hear slow and steady is always best and sustainable always wins. And although in some cases that is very, very true, there is a bit of nuance to this statement. Now, I fully agree that sustainability always wins in terms of our routine, habits, and lifestyle. So in short, not restricting any food groups, not doing fad diets, not doing quick fixes, detox cleanses, or 5-day fast. None of that bullshit. But when it comes to your actual calorie deficit, the size of it, and how fast you want to lose the body fat, slow and steady isn't always best. For some people, myself included, it's actually better to go a little bit more aggressive with the calorie deficit and try to lose fat a little bit faster. Now, of course, with everything, there's extremes. I'm not saying go from eating 3,000 calories a day to 900, that's stupid, but let's say an average deficit is 500. There's nothing wrong with, say, 600, 700, maybe even 800 for some people. And then other people, maybe it's a bit slower than 500. Anyway, here's the simple way you can decide if you should be a bit more slow and conservative or a bit more fast and aggressive. So option A, the slower way. Now, I would recommend going slower if you don't have a specific deadline or date that you want to be lean for. You have a fairly active social life, you enjoy eating out a couple of times per week, maybe having a few drinks. If a lot of your social or work interactions revolve around calories, eating, drinking, events, then option A is definitely a better option in my opinion. And if you feel like taking the all or nothing mindset completely throws you off track faster than anything else, then definitely option A is better for you. Now option B, the faster, more aggressive way. I find option B works best for people that have a lot of discipline. They can go all in on an approach and really stick to the game plan. This also works better if you're not going out for social meals all the time, your work doesn't heavily rely on events, traveling, and going for dinners and stuff with clients. I also find option B tends to work a bit better if you don't have a lot of body fat or weight to lose. This way you can look at your deficit as a get in, get the job done and get out kind of thing. The main downside to option B is you'll probably experience a little bit more hunger than if you were to go slower. Now here's the most important part. You need to pick one, either be option A or option B, and just stick with it. I find the fastest thing to ruin a calorie deficit is taking option A and comparing yourself to someone that's taking option B, or constantly trying to switch back and forth between going faster, going slower, going faster, going slower. Just pick one and stick with it, because it will also help your tracking and expectations. And this leads nicely into number 6, social eating and cheat meals. Personally, I hate the term cheat meals. I used to use this all the time, but that's when I had a binge eating problem. I had a terrible relationship with food, and until I fixed that and I stopped looking at all these cheat meals as a cheat meal, it didn't really get better. And in my opinion, that's because telling yourself it's a cheat meal just because you smashed a donut or enjoyed a pizza night on the weekend is essentially telling yourself that you're doing something wrong. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying a donut, having a bit of pizza, but when it comes to sticking to your calorie deficit, this is where we need to be careful. Because it would be easy for me to sit here and say, you can do that on a weekly basis and still make great progress. But the truth is, for most people, that's just not gonna happen. And that's because if you smashed a Domino's pizza and a full tub of Ben & Jerry's, that's 2,500 calories, and that's probably 4 to 5 days of progress gone in one meal. But this doesn't mean you can't eat off plan, go on date nights, and you can't be social. You just need to be smart about it. So here are the simple tactics that my clients use to still enjoy eating out whilst sticking to their calorie deficit. First is making smart food choices. For example, a Domino's pizza and garlic bread has over 1,400 calories. But if you swap that for a chicken supreme, I don't know why the fuck I'm doing this, a chicken supreme on thin and crispy crust, that's only about 888 calories. So let's say ordering pizza and watching Netflix with your partner is a traditional Friday night. Making this simple swap would still allow you to eat the entire pizza, and it's gonna be 10 times easier to stay in your calorie deficit and keep losing weight at the same speed. The second is calorie banking. When it comes to calorie banking, I recommend you just slightly alter the calories of that day rather than maneuver your entire week around lowering calories Monday to Thursday just to have a higher calorie pizza on Friday. In my opinion, this is way better because it makes your week remain the same. It's super consistent and it's much easier to do. Not to mention, I think this helps avoid falling into the restrict and binge trap. So let's just take that same Domino's date night example. If the 888 calories are still a lot for you, you could simply remove one of your snacks that day, slightly lower your breakfast, or maybe cut your lunch in half, something like that. It's gonna allow for those extra calories. That way, it's only 1, maybe 2 simple swaps on the same day, and you're good to go. By the way, I have a completely free macro-friendly takeout guide that will show you all these lowest calorie and best options. I'll chuck it in the description for you. The third thing you can do with the social meal is just simply enjoy yourself and eat whatever you want. And you probably weren't expecting me to say that, but sometimes that is just the best option. Now, the key thing here is knowing that might slow down your progress a little bit for that week, maybe, but if this is something you only do maybe every month or second month, then it's totally fine. But if you are doing this on a weekly basis and expecting to make the same amount of fat loss progress, that's where you're in for a rough time. And that's the most common thing that I see. Number 7, things to know that you might not expect. Not having realistic expectations or knowing what to expect can throw you out of a deficit and off plan faster than anything. So here are a few things to keep in mind whilst you're in your calorie deficit. The first is being hungry in a deficit is very normal and to be expected. Now, how hungry you do get in your deficit will come down to genetics, the type of food you're eating, so food volume, how big your deficit is. The next thing is to know that the scale will fluctuate. It's completely normal and to be expected. And it's also why we spoke about tracking accurately in point number 3. For example, I recently did a video on my Instagram where I showed how easy it is to gain a kilo in 30 seconds. I basically smashed a full glass of water, put a hoodie on, and then jumped back on the scale, and I was a kilo heavier. Now, you might think that's obvious, being a bit stupid and dramatic, but trust me, I've been coaching people for well over 10 years, and I can't count the amount of times I've seen someone do something like that. The next thing is do your absolute best to look at your data and progress as logically as possible. Try to take out any emotions as much as you can, and this is where also having a good coach can come in handy. Again, much easier said than done, but being logical about your data and progress instead of emotional is just gonna help you lose fat so much easier. Next up, having some cravings from time to time is very fucking normal. It's to be expected. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. And you will also notice that cravings can and probably will be a little bit more frequent when you're in a calorie deficit. To help control cravings, being consistent with your calories and protein is key. Aiming for majority nutrient-dense foods will also help a lot. So think fruits, veggies, lean meats, all the healthy shit. That will help a ton. And then also just knowing that sometimes cravings might not stem from anything other than boredom, mindless snacking, and bad habits. We've all got them. It's okay. You just have to be aware, and you just need to stick to your game plan and daily structure the best you can. Also, having good quality sleep and managing stress levels the best you can will also help you avoid that extra hunger and cravings quite a lot. The last thing to note that you might not expect is that as you get leaner and lighter, generally speaking, progress will slow down and everything can get a bit harder. Those are the main things to keep in mind when you're in a calorie deficit. And if you want more help with what to eat when you're in that calorie deficit, then check out this video next.